No one remembered who had discovered the planet first. The official records had been erased thousands of years ago. Every map marked the same warning. Do not land. The planet had no official name anymore. Across the galaxy, it was simply called the world that eats armies. Entire alien civilizations feared speaking its real name. Merchant ships changed their routes to stay light years away. Military fleets refused missions anywhere near its orbit. Even pirates, the most fearless criminals in the galaxy, turned around the moment its black clouds appeared on their scanners. Stories spread from one generation to another. Some claimed the forests were alive. Others believed the mountains could move. Many said the monsters hunted together like a single mind. No one knew the truth, because no one had ever returned. Thousands of years passed. Millions of soldiers disappeared. Hundreds of war fleets entered the atmosphere. Not a single distress signal ever escaped. Eventually, the Galactic Council made a decision. Instead of studying the planet, they would use it. It became the galaxy's final prison, the destination for those considered too dangerous to keep alive. No trials, no mercy, no return. Every criminal sent there vanished within hours. Every execution ended the same way. Silence. Until one day, a human arrived, deep inside the Galactic Council chamber. Hundreds of alien leaders watched a holographic prison ship floating in space. The chamber was silent. An elderly alien judge slowly stood. The prisoner is human number 7. A hologram appeared above the room. The man looked ordinary, around 30 years old, short dark hair, strong shoulders, calm blue eyes. No fear, no panic. Just silence. Some council members frowned. That's him. He doesn't even look dangerous. Another alien laughed. This species survives because of luck. They panic too easily. They fight each other. They'll never survive that planet. The judge raised one hand. The human is accused of destroying an entire pirate empire. The room became quiet. He also destroyed 3 illegal weapon factories. A few leaders exchanged surprised looks. He refused every offer to join the Galactic Alliance. Now the whispers grew louder. One commander leaned forward. If he's so useful, why execute him? The judge answered without emotion. Because he cannot be controlled. Silence returned. The sentence was approved. Permanent exile. Destination, the world that eats armies. Inside the prison transport, the human sat quietly in magnetic restraints. His name was Ethan Cross. A robotic guard approached. You have one final chance. Confess your crimes. Ethan slowly looked up. I protected innocent people. That's not a crime. The robot remained silent. You attacked Alliance property. They were selling children. Another pause. The machine processed the answer. No response came. Only another cold announcement. Arrival in 5 minutes. Outside the small window, the planet appeared. It was unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. Massive black forests stretched across entire continents. Towering mountains pierced thick crimson clouds. Gigantic storms circled the planet, like living creatures. Lightning flashed every few seconds. Something enormous moved beneath the clouds. Too large to identify. Even from orbit, it looked alive. For the first time, one guard whispered, I hate this place. Another guard quietly nodded. So do I. The prison ship entered the atmosphere. The entire vessel shook violently. Warning alarms filled every corridor. Unknown biological interference detected. Navigation unstable. External impact. Boom. Something hit the ship. Not once. Again. 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 The crew looked at the scanners. Nothing appeared. Yet the ship continued shaking, as if invisible giants were striking it from outside. One officer's voice trembled. We need to leave. The captain shouted. Drop the prisoner. Now! Without another word, the rear cargo doors opened. Ethan's restraints unlocked. The floor disappeared beneath him. He fell, faster and faster. Cold air screamed past his face. Dark clouds swallowed him. Lightning exploded around his body. Far below, the endless jungle waited. Then, the trees moved, not because of the wind. Something inside the forest was watching him fall. Hundreds, no, thousands of glowing eyes slowly opened beneath the giant trees. Every predator on the planet had noticed the same thing. A human had arrived, and every one of them was hungry. Ethan crashed through massive branches. Leaves exploded around him. Thick vines wrapped around his arms before snapping apart. Finally, he slammed into the muddy ground with enough force to shake the surrounding forest. Silence. For several long seconds. Nothing moved. Then, a deep growl echoed through the darkness. Another answer from the opposite direction. Then another. Then dozens more. The jungle wasn't waking up. It had never been asleep. Hidden between enormous roots. Pairs of glowing eyes appeared one after another. Golden, red, blue, white. Different species. Different predators. One prey. Ethan slowly opened his eyes. His body screamed in pain. His vision blurred. He forced himself to sit. Then he heard it. Heavy footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Something gigantic was walking toward him. Branches cracked like dry bones. The growling stopped. Even the smaller predators backed away. Whatever was coming, they feared it too. A shadow taller than 2 elephants stepped out between the ancient trees. 2 burning amber eyes locked onto Ethan. The creature took one more step. The ground itself trembled. Ethan had survived the fall. But now, he was staring at the true ruler of the deadliest planet in the galaxy, and it had already decided its first meal had finally arrived. The giant creature stopped only 20 feet away. Its glowing amber eyes never blinked. It did not roar. It did not charge. It simply watched the human. Every smaller predator in the jungle slowly backed away. Even the insects became silent. The forest itself seemed afraid. The monster stood nearly 18 feet tall. Its body looked like a terrifying mix of a black bear, a wolf, and an ancient dinosaur. Rows of dark bone spikes ran across its back. Its front legs were thicker than tree trunks. Long curved horns stretched backward over its skull. Old battle scars covered almost every part of its body. This creature had survived countless battles. It was the ruler of this territory, the Alpha King. The beast slowly inhaled. Its powerful nose studied the human scent. Then, something strange happened. The Alpha tilted its head, almost as if it was confused. The human smelled different. Not like fear. Not like prey. Not like any creature it had ever hunted. The Alpha took one slow step closer. Ethan forced himself to stand. Every muscle in his body screamed with pain. His left arm was bleeding. His breathing was uneven. He knew he could not win. Not against something like this. But if death had come, he would face it standing. The giant predator stared into Ethan's eyes. Seconds passed. Neither one moved. Then, a terrifying scream echoed across the jungle. Not from the Alpha. From somewhere behind it. The Alpha instantly turned. Its ears flattened. Its muscles tightened. For the first time, the ruler of the jungle looked worried. A second scream followed. Much closer. Branches exploded apart. Several smaller monsters ran through the trees in blind panic. One creature crashed into a giant rock without even looking behind it. Something was chasing them. Something that made predators run. The Alpha released a deep warning growl. It was no longer focused on Ethan. Its attention had shifted to the darkness. Then, the trees burst apart. A massive 6-legged monster lunged from the shadows. Its body was covered in black armor plates. 3 burning red eyes glowed above rows of razor-sharp teeth. Its front claws were longer than swords. Acid dripped from its mouth, burning holes into the ground. Without hesitation, it attacked the Alpha. Boom! The collision shook the forest. The 2 giants slammed into each other with enough force to snap ancient trees in half. The Alpha's horns drove into the attacker's shoulder. The armored beast answered by ripping deep claw marks across the Alpha's chest. The battle was savage. Every strike cracked the earth. Every roar echoed for miles. Ethan slowly stepped backward. If those monsters noticed him again, he would die instantly. He turned and ran into the jungle. Behind him, the battle continued. Trees fell like dominoes. The ground trembled beneath every impact. After several minutes of running, the sounds finally faded. Ethan leaned against a massive tree. His chest burned. His vision blurred. He needed water, food, anything. He searched the area carefully. The jungle looked beautiful and deadly. Bright blue flowers released glowing spores into the air. Huge vines slowly moved around tree trunks. Tiny insects floated like stars. Everything looked alive. Too alive. Ethan remembered every survival lesson he had learned on Earth. Never trust colorful plants. Never drink still water. Never assume silence means safety. He found a narrow stream flowing between dark rocks. Instead of drinking immediately, he watched it. Small fish swam freely. Tiny bird-like creatures landed beside the water. None died. Good. The water was probably safe. He drank slowly. Cold water rushed through his body. For the first time since arriving, he felt hope. A sudden squeak interrupted him. Ethan looked toward a nearby bush. Something tiny stumbled out. It was no taller than a large dog. Its body was covered in soft gray fur. Two short crystal horns curved above its head. Its enormous golden eyes looked frightened. One of its back legs was badly injured. The little creature collapsed only a few feet away. It wasn't alone. Fresh claw marks covered its side. Something had attacked it. The small animal looked directly at Ethan. It did not growl. It did not run. It simply cried. A quiet, painful sound. Ethan slowly approached. The creature trembled. He carefully raised both hands. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The little animal watched every movement. Its breathing became faster. Ethan removed a strip of fabric from his prison uniform. He gently wrapped the wounded leg. The creature flinched once, but it did not attack. Minutes later, the bleeding slowed. The little animal slowly stood. It tested its injured leg, then looked back at Ethan. For a moment, neither moved. Then something unexpected happened. The tiny creature walked forward. It gently pressed its forehead against Ethan's hand, almost like a thank you. Ethan smiled for the first time since arriving. "Looks like we're both trying to survive." The little creature made a soft, happy sound. Then its ears suddenly stood upright. Its eyes widened. It looked toward the trees behind Ethan, not with curiosity, with fear. Very slowly, it stepped backward. A deep growl echoed through the forest. Another answered from the opposite direction. Then another. Then dozens more. Ethan turned. Pairs of glowing eyes appeared between the trees. Green, amber, white, blue. A hunting pack. Not one monster. Not two. Nearly 30 predators surrounded the clearing. The little horned creature quickly hid behind Ethan's legs. The largest predator slowly stepped forward. Its jaws opened. Rows of razor-sharp teeth reflected the fading sunlight. It wasn't hungry. It was leading a hunt. And every member of the pack was staring at the human. Ethan tightened his fists. There was nowhere left to run. The hunt had finally begun. The predators did not attack immediately. They spread out, slowly, patiently, like experienced hunters closing a trap. Every escape route disappeared. The largest beast stepped closer. It looked similar to a wolf, but it stood nearly 10 feet tall. Black bone spikes covered its shoulders. Its silver eyes never left Ethan. Behind it, 29 more predators waited. Not one made a sound. The little horned creature pressed tightly against Ethan's leg. Its tiny body shook with fear. Ethan looked around. No cliffs. No caves. No trees thin enough to climb. No weapons. Only death. The alpha wolf lowered its head. Its muscles tightened. Ethan knew exactly what that meant. It was about to charge. Then, the little horned creature suddenly stepped in front of him. Its tiny body blocked the path. The alpha stopped. Its silver eyes narrowed. The little creature let out a loud cry. It wasn't threatening. It sounded like a desperate plea. The hunting pack became restless. Several predators growled. One of them took another step forward. The alpha answered with a deep warning growl. Instantly, the others stopped moving. The leader looked at the injured little creature for several long seconds. Then, it slowly looked back at Ethan. The human, the one who had healed it. The alpha sniffed the air. Once, twice. Then it did something impossible. It turned around. without attacking, without roaring, without even looking back. The rest of the hunting pack hesitated, confused, but none challenged their leader. One by one, every predator disappeared into the jungle. Within seconds, the clearing became silent again. Ethan couldn't believe what had just happened. He looked at the little creature. You saved my life." The little animal blinked, then happily wagged its short tail. Ethan laughed. "I guess we're even now." The little creature made the same cheerful sound again. For the first time, the deadliest planet in the galaxy didn't feel completely lonely. Hours passed. The sun slowly disappeared behind enormous mountains. Darkness covered the jungle, but this planet did not become darker. Thousands of glowing plants lit the forest floor. Blue vines wrapped around ancient trees. Golden mushrooms pulsed like tiny lanterns. Floating insects drifted through the air like stars. The entire jungle glowed with strange colors, beautiful and terrifying. Ethan needed shelter before night. The little horned creature suddenly ran ahead. It looked back, as if asking him to follow. "You know a safe place?" The creature squeaked, then disappeared between thick roots. Ethan followed carefully. After several minutes, the jungle opened into a hidden valley. A waterfall crashed down enormous black cliffs. Crystal blue water flowed into a peaceful lake. Natural caves surrounded the valley. No large predator scents. No fresh footprints. It was hidden, almost invisible from above. "This," Ethan whispered, "is perfect." The little creature proudly lifted its head, as if saying, "I told you." For the next several days, life became survival. Every morning, Ethan searched for food. He learned which fruits were safe, which rivers held fish, which plants caused paralysis. Every mistake could kill him. The little creature followed everywhere. Sometimes it warned him before danger appeared. Sometimes it found food hidden beneath giant roots. It seemed to know the jungle better than anyone. Ethan eventually smiled. "You need a name." The little creature tilted its head. He looked at its small crystal horns. "They remind me of tree branches." He thought for another second. "Your name is Ash." The little creature squeaked happily, as if it approved. "Welcome to the team, Ash." Ash jumped excitedly around the cave. For the first time in weeks, Ethan forgot he had been sentenced to die. 3 weeks passed. His beard grew thicker. His body became stronger. His prison uniform slowly disappeared. Animal hides replaced torn clothing. Sharp stones became knives. Long branches became spears. He learned to move without making noise, to smell rain before storms arrived, to hear predators long before he saw them. The planet was changing him. Or perhaps it was revealing the human he had always been. One afternoon, Ash suddenly froze. Its ears stood straight. Someone was nearby, not monsters. Footsteps, metal footsteps. Ethan quickly climbed onto a giant tree branch. Below, 3 armored alien soldiers entered the valley. Their silver armor carried the symbol of the Galactic Council. One activated a floating scanner. No human remains. Another checked the readings. Impossible. The execution was 23 days ago. He should already be dead. The 3rd soldier looked around nervously. "I don't like this place." Finished the scan. Suddenly, the scanner began flashing. One soldier looked down. "What is this?" Large footprints. Fresh. Too large for any known predator. And beside them, human footprints. Walking together. The soldiers stared at each other. "That's impossible." Before anyone could speak again, Ash accidentally stepped on a dry branch. Crack! Every soldier looked toward the trees. "We're not alone." Energy rifles were raised instantly. Ethan remained perfectly still. His heart pounded. If they discovered him, the entire jungle would know. One soldier slowly approached the bushes where Ash was hiding. 5 steps. 4. 3. He reached forward, pulled the branches apart. Nothing. Ash had vanished. The soldiers searched for another hour, then finally left the valley. As their ship disappeared into clouds, the commander transmitted one short message to the Galactic Council. prisoner status. He paused, looking once more at the strange footprints. Unknown. That same night, far beyond the valley, the wounded Alpha King from Ethan's first days slowly walked through the darkness. Fresh scars covered its chest. It stopped on top of a massive cliff, overlooking the jungle. Its glowing amber eyes stared directly toward Ethan's hidden valley. The ancient beast was not hunting. It was watching, waiting, as if judging someone. Then, the Alpha lifted its head toward the stars and released a roar unlike any sound heard before. It wasn't a warning. It wasn't a challenge. It was a call. Miles away, dozens of enormous predators answered, then hundreds, across the entire planet. Monster after monster lifted its head toward the night sky. Something ancient had awakened, and somehow it was connected to one human. The roar echoed across the planet for nearly an hour. Then, silence returned, but it was no longer the same silence. The jungle was listening, watching, waiting. Ethan stepped outside the cave at sunrise. Ash stood beside him. The little creature's ears remained pointed toward the distant mountains. It had barely slept. Neither had Ethan. Whatever had happened last night, every living creature had heard it. Days passed. Something had changed. Predators still watched Ethan, but they no longer attacked. Sometimes he would look across a valley and find enormous monsters silently staring back. Minutes later, they would simply walk away, as if someone had ordered them not to touch him. Even stranger, whenever Ethan hunted for food, another animal often appeared first. A giant bird would drop fruit from high branches. Massive herbivores accidentally uncovered edible roots. Predators chased prey directly toward his traps. It almost felt like the jungle itself wanted him alive. Ethan hated that thought. Nothing survived on this planet without a reason. One afternoon, Ash suddenly sprinted into the forest. Ash! Ethan grabbed his spear and followed. The little creature ran faster than ever before. Past giant rivers, past ancient trees, past enormous stone cliffs. Finally, Ash stopped in front of a mountain unlike any Ethan had seen. Its entrance was hidden behind a roaring waterfall. The rocks weren't natural. They had been carved perfectly. Someone had built this place thousands of years ago. Inside, the air became cold. Ancient symbols covered every wall. Not written, carved. Each symbol showed different monsters. Winged beasts, horned giants, sea creatures larger than cities. And standing among them, a single figure. Not an alien, not a monster. A human. Ethan frowned. That's impossible. Humans had never reached this side of the galaxy. At least, that's what history claimed. He continued deeper. The tunnel finally opened into a massive underground chamber. It was enormous, almost the size of a stadium. Thousands of stone pillars supported the ceiling. Broken statues lined both sides. Every statue showed monsters, bowing, not fighting, bowing before the same human figure. At the far end of the chamber stood a giant stone throne. It was nearly 30 feet tall, built for something much larger than a human. Behind it, a circular wall carried one final carving. This one was different. Unlike the others, its surface still glowed with faint golden light. Ethan slowly brushed away centuries of dust. The ancient image became clear. A human warrior, standing beside creatures from every corner of the planet. Above them, a strange symbol burned like the sun. Below it, ancient words. Ash softly touched one glowing stone. The symbol suddenly lit up. Golden light raced across the chamber. The entire wall began to shine. A deep voice echoed through the darkness. Not from a speaker, not from a machine, from everywhere. When the skies bring the one without claws. The chamber trembled. The beast shall choose. More symbols awakened, not by strength, not by blood, but by heart. Ethan looked around. Who's there? No answer. Only another sentence. The king is never crowned. The king is accepted. The light faded. The chamber became silent once again. Ash looked up at Ethan. Its golden eyes seemed almost hopeful, far above the planet. A Galactic Council observation cruiser exited hyperspace. Its commander immediately noticed something impossible. Where are the patrol drones? An officer checked the system. No signal. What about the satellites? Also gone. The commander frowned. Destroyed. No. They simply stopped transmitting. The bridge fell silent. Then, a weak emergency signal appeared. One of the missing scout drones had suddenly come back online. Its damaged camera transmitted only a few seconds of footage. The officers leaned forward. The recording shook violently. Huge monsters filled the screen. Then, the camera briefly focused on something else. A human, walking calmly through the jungle. Ash trotted beside him. Neither creature looked afraid. One enormous predator actually moved aside, allowing the human to pass. The video ended. Silence filled the bridge. One officer whispered, "Replay that." The footage played again. Same result. The commander slowly stood. "Send everything to the Galactic Council." Immediately, several days later, inside the council chamber, hundreds of alien leaders watched the recording. No one spoke. The oldest council member finally broke the silence. "Impossible." Another leader shook his head. "The monsters don't cooperate. They don't share territory. They don't tolerate outsiders. They kill everything." So, he looked toward the frozen image of Ethan. Why is the human still alive? No one had an answer. One military general finally stood. "We should eliminate him." Another leader objected. "With what army?" "You've all read the history. We've already lost millions on that planet." The debate grew louder. Then, the Supreme Chancellor raised one hand. Silence returned instantly. He stared at Ethan's image for several seconds, then quietly said, "If the monsters are protecting him, we need to know why." He turned toward the fleet commander. "Prepare an expedition. Not an invasion. A reconnaissance mission. Bring me the human, if possible, alive, back on the planet." Ethan had no idea that the most powerful government in the galaxy was now hunting him again. He and Ash returned toward the hidden valley. The sun slowly disappeared behind the mountains. Everything seemed peaceful, too peaceful. Ash suddenly stopped walking. Its ears flattened. Its tail froze. Ethan noticed it too. The forest had become silent. No birds. No insects. No wind. Nothing. Then, a shadow blocked the moonlight. Ethan slowly looked up. A gigantic winged creature descended from the sky. Its wings stretched wider than a passenger aircraft. Black feathers mixed with shimmering scales. Her glowing amber eyes stared directly at Ethan. Its talons alone were larger than a human. The creature landed only 30 feet away. The ground exploded beneath its weight. Ash instinctively stepped in front of Ethan, trying to protect him. The giant beast lowered its head, opened its enormous beak, and instead of attacking, it gently placed something at Ethan's feet. A broken spear. Not alien. Human. Old. Very old. Then the ancient sky predator slowly stepped back, as if waiting to see whether Ethan understood what it meant. The broken spear lay quietly on the ground. Its metal had almost turned to stone. Strange blue crystals had grown across its surface. Ethan slowly picked it up. The moment his fingers touched the ancient weapon, a powerful wave rushed through his mind. He saw another human. Not himself. A man wearing armor, unlike anything in the galaxy. He stood in the middle of thousands of monsters. None attacked him. Instead, every beast lowered its head. The human raised a spear toward the sky. A deep voice echoed across the vision. "A king does not command the beasts. He earns their trust." The vision disappeared. Ethan staggered backward. His heart raced. Ash quickly ran to his side. "You saw it too." Ethan whispered. Ash quietly nodded. The little creature gently touched the old spear. The blue crystals began glowing once again. The giant winged beast remained perfectly still. It wasn't threatening Ethan. It was waiting. Slowly, Ethan lowered the spear. He looked directly into the creature's glowing eyes. "I don't know who that man was. I don't know why you're showing me this. But I'm not your king." For several long seconds, nothing happened. Then, the enormous creature bowed its head. Not deeply, just enough to show respect. It spread its giant wings. With one powerful flap, it disappeared into the night sky. Ash watched it leave, then quietly looked back at Ethan, almost disappointed. The next morning, Ethan noticed something impossible. The jungle had changed again. Fresh fruit had been placed outside the cave. Clean water collected inside large stone bowls. Medicinal plants had been stacked near the entrance. No footprints. No signs of who brought them. Only giant claw marks around the valley. The monsters were helping, without ever showing themselves. Far above the planet, 3 galactic stealth ships silently entered orbit. Unlike previous missions, these ships carried the Alliance's best hunters. Commander Varric stood inside the main bridge. He wasn't a politician. He was a legend. He had captured warlords, defeated pirates, and survived worlds where entire armies had failed. He studied Ethan's file. A human. He smiled slightly. This won't take long. An officer looked nervous. Sir, the planet has destroyed every expedition before. Varric calmly replied, I'm not here to fight the planet. I'm here to capture one man. The landing pods entered the atmosphere. Unlike the prison ship, these vessels were heavily armored. Electronic camouflage surrounded them. Within minutes, they landed nearly 50 miles away from Ethan's Valley. The soldiers immediately released flying scout drones. Tiny machines disappeared into the forest, searching, watching, recording everything. One drone finally found movement. The operator zoomed in. There! The screen showed Ethan training beside a waterfall. He moved differently now. Faster, calmer, more confident. Every strike with the ancient spear looked natural, like he had trained for years. Commander Varric smiled. He'll come quietly. Another drone shifted slightly and accidentally brushed against a tree branch. Click! The tiny sound echoed through the valley. Ethan instantly stopped moving. His eyes slowly lifted toward the trees. He hadn't seen the drone. He had heard it. For several seconds, neither moved. Then Ethan quietly spoke. You can come out. The drone operator laughed. He thinks we're hiding behind a bush. Commander Varric shook his head. No. Pull the drone back. The operator frowned. Sir, now. The drone turned away, but it was already too late. A blur shot through the air. Crack! One of the trees exploded. The drone vanished. Only burning metal fell back to the ground. Commander Varric stared silently at the broken camera feed. What destroyed it? No visual, sir. No heat signature. No energy weapon. Then what hit it? No one answered, because no one knew. Deep inside the jungle, something enormous moved between the trees. Invisible, silent, watching the soldiers, watching Ethan, watching everything. That night, Commander Varric gathered his entire team. We move at dawn. Our objective remains unchanged. Capture the human alive. If monsters interfere, he paused. Retreat immediately. Some soldiers exchanged confused looks. Retreat. Varric looked directly at them. This planet has never lost. I'm not arrogant enough to believe we'll be the first. Meanwhile, Ethan couldn't sleep. Ash quietly walked outside the cave, looking toward the mountains. Ethan followed. The night sky was unusually bright. Then, 1, 2, 5, 20. Hundreds of glowing eyes appear across the surrounding cliffs. Every type of monster stood there. Massive horned beasts, giant wolves, winged predators, towering reptiles, creatures larger than houses. None made a sound. They simply watched. Then, the wounded Alpha King stepped out from the darkness. The same beast Ethan had seen on his very first day. Its old wounds had healed. It slowly walked toward Ethan. Each step shook the valley. Ash bowed its head. So did the giant winged creature. Then another monster bowed. Then another. Within seconds, thousands of creatures lowered their heads together. The Alpha King stopped only a few feet away. Its glowing amber eyes locked onto Ethan. Very slowly, it lowered its massive head. Not in surrender. In acceptance. The entire valley followed. The jungle itself seemed to hold its breath. At that exact moment, every scanner aboard Commander Varric's fleet suddenly overloaded. Alarm screamed across every screen. An officer shouted, "Sir, we've detected life signs." "How many?" The officer's face turned pale. He looked back at the commander. His voice barely escaped his lips. "Not hundreds, not thousands, millions." The entire planet had answered the king's call. Commander Varric stared at the scanner. The numbers refused to stop climbing. 1 million, 3 million, 7 million. The computer finally gave up. Life sign limit exceeded. Silence filled the command bridge. One young officer whispered, "That's impossible." Commander Varric slowly looked toward the planet below. "No, it's worse. It's real." At sunrise, the Alliance expedition entered the jungle. 300 elite soldiers, hover tanks, combat drones, heavy plasma weapons. The finest military force the Galactic Alliance could assemble. Every soldier had survived dozens of wars. Every commander believed the mission would be difficult. None of them understood what they had walked into. The jungle was completely silent. No birds, no insects, no predators, nothing. One soldier frowned. "Where's everything?" Another answered nervously, "I don't like this." Commander Varric raised one hand. "Keep moving." Meanwhile, Ethan stood at the center of the hidden valley. Thousands of monsters surrounded him. The Alpha King stood beside him. Ash quietly sat on his shoulder. Ethan looked around. "I never wanted this. I never wanted to rule anyone." The Alpha slowly looked into Ethan's eyes. Then, it gently pushed the ancient spear toward him. The message was clear. Lead, not because of power, because they had chosen him. Suddenly, Ash's ears shot upward. The little creature growled. Ethan turned toward the eastern forest. Smoke, artificial smoke. The Alliance had arrived. Minutes later, Commander Varric entered the valley. His entire army stopped. No one spoke. Every soldier stared in disbelief. Thousands, no, millions, of creatures covered every hill. Winged predators circled above. Giant beasts blocked every path. Massive reptiles watched from rivers. The valley had become a living army, and standing at its center was one human. Commander Varric slowly removed his helmet. He looked directly at Ethan. "So, you survived?" Ethan answered calmly. "I did." Varric nodded. "I didn't come here to kill you. I'm offering you one chance. Come with us. We leave peacefully." Ethan looked around. At Ash, at the Alpha, at every creature waiting behind him. He smiled slightly. "I already am home." The words echoed across the valley. Commander Varric sighed. "I was hoping you wouldn't say that." He slowly raised one hand. Immediately, Alliance soldiers aimed their plasma rifles. At the exact same moment, millions of monsters stood. The ground shook. The mountains echoed. The sky darkened beneath countless wings. One wrong move would start a war. A nervous Alliance soldier panicked. His fingers slipped. A plasma bolt fired. It wasn't aimed at Ethan. It struck Ash. The tiny creature cried out. Its small body crashed on the ground. Everything stopped. Ethan dropped to his knees. "Ash!" The little creature struggled to breathe. Blue blood stained the grass. The valley became completely silent. Even the wind disappeared. The Alpha slowly turned toward the soldiers. Its glowing amber eyes became deep crimson. For the first time, it roared, not in anger, in judgment. The sound shook mountains. Birds exploded into the sky. Rivers rippled. The entire planet answered. Every monster roared together. The noise could be heard from orbit. Commander Varric's face changed. He finally understood. We're too late. The jungle erupted. Winged predators crashed into Alliance drones. Massive beasts flipped armored tanks. Invisible hunters dragged soldiers into the trees. Giant serpents shattered plasma cannons. The living planet fought as one. Not for territory. Not for food. For family. Commander Varric refused to retreat. He drew his energy blade. "I'll end this myself." He charged toward Ethan. The Alpha moved first, but Ethan raised one hand. No. The Alpha stopped instantly. Ethan stepped forward alone. He still held the ancient spear. Commander Varric attacked with incredible speed. Years of military training. Perfect technique. Ethan barely avoided the first strike. The second cut his shoulder. The third nearly reached his neck. Then, Ethan remembered every lesson the planet had taught him. Don't fight strength. Use movement. Use timing. Use the world around you. Varric attacked again. Ethan sidestepped. The commander's own momentum carried him onto loose stones beside the waterfall. His balance broke for a single second. That was enough. Ethan struck once. The ancient spear shattered Varric's energy blade. A second strike knocked the commander onto his back. The spear stopped inches from his throat. Silence. Commander Varric looked into Ethan's eyes. You won. Ethan slowly lowered the weapon. I'm not your executioner. Go home. And tell the galaxy. He looked toward the millions of monsters surrounding the valley. This planet doesn't belong to fear anymore. It belongs to those who protect it. Commander Varric slowly stood. For the first time in his military career, he bowed, not to a king, to a man worthy of respect. Then he ordered the retreat. Hours later, the Alliance fleet disappeared into hyperspace. No one celebrated. The monsters simply returned to the forest. The rivers flowed once more. The jungle breathed again. Peace had returned. Several weeks later, inside the Galactic Council chamber, Commander Varric delivered his final report. The Supreme Chancellor asked only one question. Can the planet be conquered? Varric answered without hesitation. No. Another council member frowned. What if we send our entire fleet? Varric slowly looked around the chamber, then quietly replied, You don't understand. We wouldn't be fighting one human. We'd be fighting an entire world. Silence filled the chamber. The Supreme Chancellor closed the report. Then the planet will remain forbidden. No ship will ever approach it again. The order passed unanimously. Back on the forgotten world. Ethan stood on top of the highest cliff. Ash, now fully healed, sat proudly beside him. The Alpha King rested below. Countless creatures filled the valleys beneath them. The setting sun painted the sky in gold. Ethan smiled. 3 months ago, he had arrived as a prisoner. Today, he had become something far greater. Not a conqueror, not an emperor, not a ruler, but the guardian of the deadliest planet in the galaxy. And somewhere, far beyond the stars, new civilizations whispered an old warning to their children. If you value your life, never land on the dead planet, because the monsters are no longer its greatest danger. They have a human. The end.